Okay, so it looks like we're right at 11 o'clock, so we can get started with the next presentation, which is a panel from a college and university section, Remote Learning and the Digital Divide, Considering Opportunities and Challenges in Academic Libraries. So as we all know, the digital divide refers to the gap that exists between those who have access to the internet and technology and those who do not. And this issue has become even more relevant to higher education during COVID-19 as classes have shifted online, with some students and families having the means to be successful in a remote learning environment, while others have struggled to do so. Academic libraries have played a pivotal role in attempting to facilitate the availability and access to electronic resources during these challenging times. So today's panel of academic librarians will share their experiences in addressing the digital divide in their libraries. My name is Dawn Berendt, and I am the moderator for this panel. I'm from Lenoir-Rhyne University. Brianne Crumpton, she is joining us from Appalachian State University. We have Dwayne Teague from North Carolina Wesleyan College. Velapon is from Fayetteville State University. And Stacy Wilson is from Catawba Valley Community College. So we're going to talk about some things related to academic libraries, and at the end, we'll be monitoring chat for questions and answers. So to begin, I just want to ask our panel which factors they feel are responsible for either decreasing or increasing the digital divide and access to quality education in higher ed.
Okay, I'll go first. Yeah. So the factors I'm considering, there are four important factors, either decreasing or increasing the digital divide. The first one I'm saying that's definitely education. So if you widening levels of education seem to magnify the digital divide. So for example, households with a higher level of education are increasingly more likely to use computers and the internet. And the second one, I can say the income. So not surprisingly, and in direct correlation to education, the levels of household income also plays a significant role in the widening gap. So there's one of the study from National Telecommunications and Information Administration, that's NTIA. They stated in the last year, the divide between highest and lowest income group grew 29%. So the definitely income is a big factor for the digital divide. And the next one is a race. At the same time, the digital divide continues to widen along very specific racial lines. So NTIA study also demonstrated the racial disparities in internet access exist irrespective of income. So the next one, it's a technology. So with the technology continually advancing, the issue of the digital divide cannot be ignored. In our society, you can see that where the distribution of wealth is already heavily unbalanced. So the technology is a really, a vital reason to magnify the digital divide.
And going off what Vivi was saying, like students have limited funds associated with them, especially depending on what kind of income background they're coming from and what kind of technology is available to them. But at the same time, a lot of classes seem to be moving in a direction where they're asking to use more technology and maybe more specific software that they just don't have access to, or they don't have the purchasing license to. And I've seen this with some faculty as well. I think because the generation of students now has grown up with a lot of technology that wasn't around. A few decades ago, there was the assumption that they're good at it and they know exactly how to utilize it. And that's not always the case. I still have students that struggle to figure out how to save a document properly in a way that they can access it again. Or they'll end up saving it to a desktop and it gets deleted. There's that whole joke about they don't know what the save icon is, a little floppy disk, but there's a lot that we, I think, assume as well in the students' ability to deal and navigate technology.
Yeah.
And to kind of add to that too, I think geography is a factor. You know, Rob touched on that in his presentation. And one of the things we found with our students, one of our service areas is Alexander County, and even when we were able to get equipment and technology to our students, sometimes the geography was the barrier that had to be crossed. It wasn't a matter of, do I have the equipment? It's where I live equipped.
Hey, this is Dwayne. I was just going to tag on to what you all said as well. At North Carolina Wesleyan College, where I work in Rocky Mount, we're in a rural area as well. And so I can totally relate with that. Some of the challenges that our students faced when COVID started, and then and then through the summer, were some of the same things you just said, that they maybe had internet access where they lived, but their family just couldn't afford it. Or as was said earlier, they had a mobile device, an iPhone or something like that. But as Rob said in his presentation, those devices, they're great for quick little things, but in terms of logging in to Blackboard or trying to do a paper or something like that, that's just not as feasible. And those were some of the challenges that we faced at North Carolina Wesleyan as well. So I think when we talk a little further, there are some other challenges that we faced, but I think I know at our library, I think like all of us, I think we were all sort of like the whole world. We were thrust into this sudden, what do we do, and what are we doing, and for our personal lives as well as our work environment. And so I think that's something we were juggling, and I look forward to hearing from other people as well, is how were we handling our personal lives while trying to, because we're librarians, and in my opinion, we are so focused on our users and our students that we get very emotionally connected to them, and we want to help them as much as possible. And again, I'll sort of wrap up with there were a few instances that I'll share later where I really was a little heartbroken that we were trying to do more that bridge the digital divide during COVID, but we just couldn't, and how that impacted some of our students. So, but thank you for letting me share that.
Just going to add too, sometimes with the digital skills, it's our faculty too. Some of them are not used to teaching in an online environment. And so, at my university, we're lucky enough to have our Center for Teaching and Learning right here in the library. One of the directors of the Center for Teaching and Learning is a librarian, and it shares her time with us. So it's really nice if you can pair up with something like that at your library and have that support for your faculty as well. Okay, so another question is, what are some issues that you've noticed with college students as it relates to the digital divide? We kind of addressed that already, but are there any other things that you think are more specific to that college population with the digital divide?
I just want to add to something that Brianne had said related, as it relates to this question, is that, we have these assumptions we make about their abilities to do certain things like save a document and that sort of thing. I think connected to that, it's also they have the same assumptions about their abilities, and they may not always realize what they don't know. And so sometimes that means asking for help is a little more difficult if you don't know how to ask the right question to get the right help. And so it's definitely a matter of us overestimating their digital skills sometimes, but it's also that they do the same thing.
And I think we sometimes overestimate the technology they have available to them at home, or on a personal level. Like, everyone has a smartphone, but everyone doesn't have a smartphone. I still know some people who don't have a smartphone in this day and age. But I've had students come up to the reference desk, like trying to find the assignment on their phone because that's what they have. And I don't think that was quite as obvious until things shut down in March, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit. But some students just have cell phones that they're going off of. Some students really rely on the library computers to do any kind of work and get anything done because they just don't have the capacity at home like we might think they do.
If I could share. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dwayne. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say something that we've realized, and maybe you all have as well, is as was said just a second ago, is sometimes the students, when it was said the students maybe they don't know what they don't know, and we have found that with regards to the services and equipment that we do have, that we can offer to the students. But again, if we aren't marketing, promoting our services and technologies as well, and we think we are doing a good job, but sometimes maybe we're not doing as well as we should. And so those were some things we've learned as well during COVID, is that we had students who didn't know we had circulating laptops. They didn't know we had circulating flash drives, so they could come in, and if they really, as we're talking about there, maybe not as savvy with some of the technology in terms of saving a paper or whatever, and maybe they didn't know how to save it in the cloud or something. We had students that would come in to use our desktops, and they wouldn't know that we could check a flash drive out to them. They could save it a little old school, but save it on the flash drive, go home, and then if they had to come back the next day, pull that paper back up and keep working. So I think that marketing and promotion side of what we have to offer is crucial as well, so the students know what we can offer to them. So thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add with Dwayne, whatever the Brain and Stacy said, I agree with everything. The virtual learning is not easy for all the students, especially for Fayetteville State University. We have almost 40 to 45% non-traditional students, because we have the big military base in the Fayetteville. So we get a lot of students. They came from, most of them the veterans. So we cannot assume everybody's tech savvy. So they really need a lot of help to use the technology. So we have to consider those points. And like, Dwayne said, we have to promote, and we have to encourage them to use the, technology device, and help them how to, make it effectively especially for this time, digital divide time, because everybody's learning virtually and they need a lot of help. So as the librarians, we have to help them to promote our materials, and to make them available, and to maybe sometimes sit with, one-on-one, to let them know, or through the Zoom meeting or some other, mode of communication. We got to make sure everybody is on track to learn the same way, like everybody does. Okay. Thank you.
I think, like Brianne said, we can't assume that the students have the technology. So just having our buildings and our spaces available for the students is so important. And at my library, we spent a lot of time getting ready to have the building open. And, our library director feels very strongly that we're available, we're here, we're open for them, and that it's a safe place. We went into a lot of planning to make sure that it would be safely open for them. So making sure they have that space and the hours are there that they need to access the library is important. Marketing, we do social media, so we kind of depend upon that, and also faculty newsletters to let them know what we have to offer. So yeah, like you say, it's not good to have it if people don't know we have it to share. So those are all excellent points. So the next question is just to kind of talk a little bit about what happened at your institution when things did go so suddenly virtual in the spring, and then what kind of lessons maybe you've carried over to this fall semester from that.
So my answer is going to be a little complicated because I actually transitioned jobs during this time. But in the spring, I was at Winston-Salem State University. And when things kind of started going south, we were hoping we could do a rotation schedule. We could keep it open, just have the staff in once a week. But eventually, we had to just completely shut down. And it almost felt like severing our ties to campus in a lot of ways, because all of our instruction that we had planned, a lot of it, the faculty just pulled out because they were just so overwhelmed with having to suddenly switch. We had a lot of faculty who were still very traditional with paper, like hand-in papers, and they didn't really utilize our course management system that now they needed to finish out the semester. And so I think it was really hard for the library to try to figure out how can we help the faculty and the students, and they just got completely overwhelmed. And what we heard was a lot of students went home to places that didn't have internet. Again, they're trying to complete the course then on the phone because they don't have access to computer, and we're closed, so we can't help them. So it was rough, it was hard. And so I can't really speak to how that's helped them in the fall. So I'm currently at Appalachian State University, and I know when, just from talking to my colleagues, when things closed in the spring, there was at least like a week where we were able to keep the atrium open for people to pick up books or items that they had requested. But after even that got shut down, we were at least able to still mail books and materials to people. And this, I think, speaks to the difference of institutions. Like at Winston-Salem State University, we just did not have the funds to offer that kind of service, where Appalachian's like 4 times the size. And so sending things to people's home is not as big a deal to us. And it was a service that we could provide and keep providing them. And it's something that we've kind of continued into the fall as well. Even though the library building is now open, they can still just get their stuff sent home to them if they don't want to come into the building. I think a big thing that changed here when reopening for the fall is that we're not currently letting community patrons in. So we're talking about like college students and faculty having access to things and materials and technology, but the community also uses our libraries, and by now they're not able to just because of safety measures, and we'll code access swipe only so we can kind of keep track of who's around and do contact tracing if it's ever needed. And I think that was a big shift in service. The other thing, which I think we're going to talk about a little with how services changed, is the librarians, I'll just say, are remote. Like we're not in the building anymore to help students in that kind of physical capacity. So those are some things that kind of happened with the 2 institutions that I'm involved with. I can't fully speak to what happened at Appalachian State in the spring because I wasn't here yet, but again, I can't really fully speak to how when things are going at Winston-Salem State either, but those are kind of what I saw through my transition between both.
So for us at CVCC, we never fully closed during that transition. Our classes moved completely online. We sent a lot of our instructors home, but we knew that we had a lot of students who would still need access to technology. And so at first the library didn't close, but I did have a challenge in that I have a 6-person staff, including me, and 4 of my staff members identified as immune compromised pretty early in the process, which meant they were allowed to immediately work from home. So we had to figure out how to staff the library with 2 people. In the end, a few weeks into the campus kind of trying to figure out what we were looking at, we were able to close the physical space, but we did things that you're probably similar to what a lot of other libraries did. We did curbside pickup, so we would go and physically, take things out of the library to whoever needed them in our parking lot. We stayed open to faculty who needed to come in and try to get a few last minute things as they were making the transition. And we did our best to figure out how to do a lot of the processes that we were having to do in person with just the 2 of us. So that was the biggest change for us, was how to do this with 2 people.
Yeah, in Fayetteville State University, we actually, when we decide to go for virtual, and that is on March 16th, then we got 1 week before we close the libraries. So we have to make sure everyone, needs to get the technology item. Then we try to, whoever contact the faculty members, some students contact library to lend the new technology item to extend the period until the end of the semester. So we tried to use as much as possible all the laptops. We tried to give it to students and faculty who need, because this is a big change for even faculty members as well. Some of them, they never teach online, so this is completely new for them. They have only 1 week to go for live, go for online class. So this is a big transition, and the faculty development office and the librarians, we work with the faculty and the students to help them to extend the loan period of all the technology items. And also when we completely closed, so everything virtual services, we didn't short any time, anything. We opened the regular time, the virtual hours are open through chat, email, and phone calls. So all the librarians, we transfer our office phone calls to the cell phone. So anyone contact us, they can directly, we can attend the phone call, they can text us, and the chat box is open for all the time. So that's what we try to, help them for any means, through virtually. And we have the schedule, all the librarians, we have to log on to the chat, and we got the backup and everything. And when we come back to fall semester, we learned that 1/3 of the students, that is almost 2,000 students, they registered for the in person, the face-to-face class. So we decided to open the library. So we have to work with facilities department to fix the plexiglass and other things. A lot of things we changed the library. Only we decided to open only first floor. So because second and third floor, all everything, the books. So we don't want to open the main stacks, anything for public, for students. So whoever requests the book, we have to go as a staff member, they will go upstairs and get the books. And when you open fall semester, there are a lot of changes. And fortunately, one of the donor, he donated, there are 850 laptops for the freshman class for the fall semester. So that helps a lot for the new students, freshman students for this fall. So I think that we try to work with them, students and faculty, and we currently we have the librarians with the team A, team B. So we got only 50% capacity working in the library. So we come and we got the schedule and help them. And whoever is on the other team, they work virtually. So we take turns. So that's what we are helping. Still, it's going great, and everybody learning, still learning to live, and it's great, great going on. Yeah.
And I was just going to tag on again from North Carolina Wesleyan College, pretty much reiterating what the other panelists have commented on, is that we did and implemented rotating teams as well. We're a small team, including we're actually down a position. Our director left to pursue a new position right before COVID started. And so we're down one position. So we're only a team of 6 as well. And so we, the first week or two, once we realized, okay, first of all, as you all have said, but I had to adjust our hours immensely, obviously, because most of our students were gone. And something I'm going to touch on later are some of the students that we did still have on campus. And I'll tell you more about that later. But we basically went physically 8 to 5. The library was open. As Velapan was saying, we were on the teams that were, let's say, working offsite. Those teams were primarily charged with monitoring the chat. And so that way, those of us, let's say the 3 of us that were physically on site on a certain day, we knew that our duties were just to keep the building open, to assist the students who were coming in to use the desktops and things like that. And but then we also completely closed our weekend hours. We were not open, obviously, on the weekends. So we were just trying to, like pretty much everybody, keep the ship afloat virtually and physically Monday through Friday, and virtually as well. And then something else that someone else mentioned were our community users. And that's something, again, I think that for me personally has been very difficult and challenging, is that our campus as well implemented a policy following COVID procedures, and that due to contact tracing, that we were not allowing our community users to come back on campus, and specifically in the library. And so that was challenging for us because we had wonderful community users who would come in, and our students obviously had top priority in terms of using our desktops, but we had wonderful users from the community who would come in who did not want to go to the public library. That was very difficult for me, honestly, personally, because I'm very, like we all are, customer service driven. And to see, even though we had huge signs and things on the doors, community borrowers that we knew would still come in. And I dreaded having to go to them and say, I'm so sorry. But due to our policies and procedures, we're going to have encourage you to go to Braswell, our public library. And so that's been some challenges for us as well. But I just want to share that, again, reiterating everything the other panelists have said. And those are things, honestly, we're still grappling with. It's been this long, and we still aren't obviously allowing community borrowers in. The other day I was working on the desk, and a patron came in I didn't recognize, and I went and greeted her, and she didn't realize we weren't allowing community borrowers in. And I was anticipating, because we never know how someone's going to react when we share information that they are not wanting to hear. And so I'm always sort of prepared for maybe somebody to be upset. And she was absolutely delightful. And I said, I'm so sorry. And she was just so sweet. She said, don't worry about it. I understand. I will go to Braswell. And as soon as y'all are able to let me come back, I would love to come back. So I'll end on that. But again, I think it's not only been our students and our faculty, but our roles in the community as well. And I honestly, personally did not realize, even though I knew we had so many community users come in and use our desktops primarily, it wasn't until we weren't allowing them to come in that I realized what an impact we are having in our small community. Thank you.
If I could just add to my answer real quick, I was reminded something Winston-Salem State did that was, I think, really beneficial to all students and faculty was when things closed, they went around and collected every laptop that wasn't being used on campus. So that included the library's laptops, we donated them, IT laptops, and they had forms with students and faculty who didn't have a device at home could fill it out, and they would ship one of our university laptops to them to use for the end of the spring semester. So we also usually have laptops to circulate, and being able to put them into that use was really, I think, rewarding for the library.
You know, in our library too, we depend a lot on our student workers because we're a small staff, like everybody has mentioned here, except for Brianne, probably have a large staff, but you know, so we really depend on those, and we're lucky to have a library staff member who does some excellent training with our students. And we actually have an app that people use at our university to be able to enter a building. They have to ask questions about COVID symptoms. Are they, you know, how they're with that, and show their app to get into the building. So we use that to kind of monitor for community patrons and things like that. So you have to be faculty, student, or staff to have that. But we have hired some student workers to sit at the front of the building and just kind of make sure that people coming in are reporting that they're feeling okay and that they have the app, and to try to keep it safe in that way, and to explain that we can't have community users at this time. So we're kind of in that same situation there. Same thing too is chat. We do a lot of things virtually. We met as a team almost every day over the summer to talk about our plans and how we were going to get ready for the fall. So we just kind of used the time we were closed to get ready to offer services in the fall. And that was kind of my next question. And a lot of this was already addressed, but can you guys think of any other services that have changed that you wanted to speak to at your library because of the COVID situation?
I can elaborate on one of my answers. Before this situation, we actually did not lend technology. I think we were one of the few libraries who didn't have a technology lending plan in place. And now we do. So that was one of the things that changed for us, and that's one of the services that's changed. We were able to work with our IT department, and through a private donation and through CARES funding, now we have a plan, we have a policy, we have a student technology agreement. So that did change for us from spring to now. The other thing that we did that changed in terms of the service is we now offer a text option to reach out to us, to communicate with us. Before, it was phone call, email. So we still have those traditional routes for meeting with our staff, but we added the text line, and now we all on our staff have WebEx rooms or Zoom rooms. We have both on our campus, and so it's your preference. So whatever your individual preference is, you can use that to meet with students. So that was another shift for us, was moving to being able to offer the virtual one-on-one and virtual library instruction.
Yeah, in our library, so we actually did the library hours. We change hours. We try to open only Sundays. We actually Saturday we just helping only remotely, and we already discussed that Monday to Friday we didn't change the time. So we have the team, so we support either virtual or physical location for the fall semester. And for the online instruction class, that's a big change. We completely change everything to online teaching. We used to have a face-to-face instruction classes. For the fall semester, we decided, okay, we get no face-to-face class, everything online. So we created online, that's library orientation Canvas course page. So we added all the students and faculty so they can go to the library orientation Canvas page, and they learn self-learning. We got some videos and everything. Even if they have any questions, we can do the video chat through the Canvas site. And if they need any one-on-one instruction, we can set up the video, directly, and we can teach them through the Canvas site. That's the one big change we did for the fall. And we also did some online virtual programming, like we celebrate Juneteenth in June month, and Rainbow Month we celebrate. I created a LibGuide for to honor the LGBT community, and we celebrate the rainbow, everything virtual thing. Same thing, Black Music Month and Banned Books Weeks in October. So we did a lot of programming. We tried to engage students and faculty and staff members. So we did a lot of programming virtually, and also created a LibGuide. That's a new for, when we go for virtual in the springtime. So we created a LibGuide for studying from home. That's a FAQs. And we put the link on the library website. So because we don't always have a lot of questions about how they can access the basic questions. So we put everything, all the questions, and we put the link and everything in the LibGuide. So that will be really helpful. And we got the tremendous numbers, more than 1,000 people already viewed the LibGuides. That's a great thing, So I think that's a big impact after we went virtual. I think that's pretty much we changed. We already discussed a lot of things, and these are new things. Yeah. Okay.
I think in terms of services, space is another thing that has changed a lot. Our study rooms are closed to students, and that's still questions we get in our chat a lot. Are the study room open? Can I come use the library? And it's like, well, you can come, but you have to wear your mask, and don't have big group discussions in the library to try to kind of limit the spread. But like research, I think, was the other big service that has changed. So as I mentioned earlier, all the librarians are remote. For the most part, so there's no longer that coming up to the desk to get a research question answered. And the user services staff and our student workers, to some degree, can answer some basic research questions. But if it's like something that's a little more in depth that you kind of need a librarian level ability to sit down and really chat, we no longer have that physical service. It's all Zoom sessions and virtuals. And thinking about the digital divide, some of the classes that I've taught online, I try to do, engaging activities, but then I'll have students in the chat being like, my internet's slow. It won't open this link that you're sending. And so it gets me thinking, like, if all of our reference services are virtual, I mean, it's great that we're there and available, but if you still have that student who just doesn't have the internet bandwidth to really connect in that way, how can we make sure we're meeting their needs? And I think it's a challenge in these times when we're trying to reduce staff that are in contact with each other every day, and we're trying to reduce the need for people to go on campus if they don't need to avoid unnecessary exposure. But I think it's still something that we need to be considering. Like, are we really meeting everyone like we would like? It's nice to increase our virtual presence and those kind of services, but there's still students who maybe they're in remote areas, they can't get internet access, they still don't have that technology. So I think that's something definitely to consider going into the spring. But I would say those are the big service differences, is reduced space access to be meeting and doing projects. I think a lot of people aren't really actually doing group activities, but students still like to do things together, even if it's not a project. But then that remote instruction, remote research consultations, those were the big things.
Hey, it's Dwayne again. If I could share, at our library, I don't know if we're sort of in an unusual spot or not, but again, as has been shared earlier, we only closed our library and campus for 2 weeks in April during this entire period. So it was only those 2 weeks that the entire campus was closed. So leading up to that and after that, our campus has been open again with limited access to students and faculty, and the library again. And it is because we're a small school, our enrollment's around 1,000 students. But even though what I was going to alluded to earlier was we have quite a large number of international students who do come to North Carolina Wesleyan. And if you're familiar with Rocky Mount, it's a very small school, very small town, about an hour away from where I live in Raleigh. And we had once everything started and pretty much all of our students left to go to their respective homes or wherever, we still had about 30 international students on campus because they could not go back home because the borders were closed. And so that was something, again, from a lot of arenas we were challenged with, but from a service standpoint, that was part of why our campus leadership pretty much insisted that our library physically remain open. And again, we were on teams, so we were there on certain days, but a lot of those international students did not, again, have their own computers or things like that. And they literally, and honestly, it surprised us that they wanted to keep coming in and using our desktops as much as they did. We still had a few circulating laptops that were available, and they could obviously use those in their dorm rooms. And all of these students, I'll preface by saying also, they were all consolidated. These 20 or 30 students were all consolidated into one section of one dorm, and the rest of the dorms were closed. But we still had those physical students from international students coming in. And so again, I'm not saying we did everything perfectly, but it was a learning experience and we were learning on the fly. But the sense of appreciation from those students was phenomenal. And we still have students now who will pop up and say, we just appreciate y'all being here and doing what you did. And now flashing forward to when the fall semester started, and it's been interesting for me to hear what's going on at some of the other schools, is that we talked about doing virtual reference assistance, like you were just mentioning, Brianna, in terms of chat or Zoom meetings and things like that, and even having a module set up in the library where they could ping one of us, and even if we were on site or at home, and have a virtual conversation. And that honestly never really got off the ground. And so, we actually have a consolidated desk now where so this is where, again, I don't know if we're unique in this or not, but we still have reference hours. We are, one of us is always in the reference section of the desk. We have circulations. It's mostly student assistants in the circulation component. We do have the plexiglass shields. We all have to be wearing masks. Unless we are in our office alone with no one else, we can take our mask off. If we are out or in the public area or at the desk, we have to have our mask on. So I think as your question earlier, Dawn, was from a service standpoint, our service modules really hasn't changed that much once fall semester started. Physically, we're in different places and procedures have changed a little bit, but we still are handling face-to-face reference questions, assisting people with questions on the computers, doing our best. And we've shared this with our leadership, saying that if you're helping someone on a computer, you can't stand 6 feet away. And I mean, that's just not possible. And so the students have their masks, we have our masks, we stand as far away as possible. But these again are honestly, because we're all in the same boat, are challenges that we as the librarians and the library team have been a little frustrated with, honestly, because we feel that we're trying to meet the needs of our supervisor and our bosses. At the same time, we're trying to protect the safety of our students and ourselves, and while still, again, providing those services. So, but thank you for letting me share that with y'all.
And if I could add a comment, I was thinking as Dwayne was talking, in terms of the desk, like the circulation desk, one thing I've noticed having going from a smaller institution to a larger one is I think larger institutions are a little more privileged in how they can put those services out there and change them. So at Appalachian State right now, in terms of like circulation, we have a self-checkout machine. So we can just point students to that. I mean, if they insist on, they want us to physically check it out and see it get checked out that way, we'll do it, of course, but we have that way to kind of reduce contact and just shift them to that self-checkout machine and give them a drop box so they can just be putting things in, so we don't have to be handling it and having those close communications. But at Winston-Salem State University, I can tell you a self-checkout machine is nowhere near our budget. So that's not an option to us. So we still have those, it's not me anymore, but they will still have to have those close contacts in order to check things out. And there's not that budgetary cushion, I would say, to be able to reduce some of the contacts in some of these service areas that people might want to do to be comfortable with not having to do all these close contacts. So I think that's an interesting difference that's coming out between what the smaller institutions are able to do versus what the larger institutions are able to do. And I think in a lot of ways, the larger institutions have a kind of a privileged position where they can have technology in place to further reduce the contact that they have to expose themselves to. So that was something I was just thinking about listening.
That makes a good point because, I'm at a smaller university too, and it's private. So there's probably a big divide as well between private and state schools and the type of funding we get. And, so we're really had to watch our budget very, very closely, and had to do a lot of cutting back when this happened. So even though I think sometimes in the community, a private school is considered maybe, like we have tons of money and we're affluent and all these things, but we don't always have the resources that even maybe a smaller state university would have in that regard. So, yeah. So, all right. So we have about 10 more minutes left before we'll look at questions and answers and whatnot, but maybe we can talk a little bit about the support you find that your faculty need from the library during the shift from hybrid and online instruction.
Yeah, our faculty from Fayetteville State, they really need the contact information for all the subject librarians. So we communicate with the faculty members because we have the certain group of faculty members. So we actually shared all the contact information, all the librarians, and we made a flyer and sent it to campus-wide email. So they can contact for any subject-related questions or any BI's virtual section or anything they can contact through them. So also we shared the chat and the link and the email and the phone numbers. Phone numbers important because we all already mentioned to you, we all transferred to our office phone to cell phone number. So they can contact anytime. And most of the time I observed faculty contact us through the email pretty much, most of the time. So they really need help, the off-campus access pretty much, and sometimes we have some issue with accessing database from home. So we have to, talk to the vendor and to make sure to fix the broken links and everything. So I think that helps a lot. And also in the meantime, we created a new open education resources, the Canvas course page, to help the students and faculty for free open access materials. Because sometimes, that would be helpful for them instead of they do all the research. So we do everything and then post it, on the Canvas course page. So that helps a lot for the students and faculty. And, as I already mentioned to you, with the chat box is always open. So that's the only, we had a great, questions comes through chat box. So we always help them. And the only difference I noticed that when you work virtually, students and faculty, they can contact anytime. There is no time limit, weekends, night and early morning, they call, when you look at the 910 number, oh, this is my office number. Okay. It directly transferred to my cell phone number. So I think I enjoyed working online as well, and going to work for 2 days a week. It works really nice, balanced life, and it's working great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think like most of us in these times, faculty really just need flexibility. And I know at Appalachian State, I think at least 40% of our classes are asynchronous. And so when we're talking about what does library instruction look like for that, I was meeting with the faculty and he's like, I really love the library and I want to include you, but I cannot wrap my head around how to put you into my asynchronous course. And I was like, it's okay, I'll make some video tutorials, it'll be fine. And so being flexible and adapting to how we are also like giving and creating materials to meet the faculty needs. I think asynchronous has been a big change. I've never made so many video tutorials in my life as I have this semester, just because there's so many classes that are asynchronous, but also it's helpful for the students. Everyone's overwhelmed. And so if you just give them a video tutorial and be like, watch this on your own time, as opposed to these meetings that have a strict schedule. So I think it just helps faculty show that we can be flexible to meet your needs and not help overwhelm you with everything that's just going on. I think that's been a big thing, just showing faculty that we can adapt to do what we need to do to make sure those students are being successful and their class can still have that library material that it needs.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what has already been said. For us, it's have their flexibility in terms of how we serve their students. We also have created a lot more individual videos for specific courses or specific assignments than we have in the past. But for our faculty, one of the biggest needs that we have found is just a reassurance that we're still going to be there for students, that we have resources and options for serving the students. They're a little less concerned about what we can and will do to help them, as long as the students still have a way to text or chat or email, or now that we're open limited hours again, to come in and meet with us.
And if I could tag on to what Stacy just said, same thing as Brianna mentioned also. I do most of our tutorial videos at North Carolina Wesleyan, and same thing. I think I've created more videos since March than I have in the last 2 years, but it's been great because they're easy to create. And honestly, because my job is to do outreach, and something I failed to mention earlier is Wesleyan College, while our main campus is in Rocky Mount, we have 8 satellite campuses throughout the region that go all the way down to New Bern, Wilmington, Greenville, and Manteo on the Outer Banks. And so obviously a lot of those faculty, some of those faculty I've ever actually have not met. And no matter how much over the last year and a half, I was promoting, please let me do a video for your class. Let me do a tutorial. I'm here to help. Unfortunately, it took COVID to happen for them to actually start pinging me, and it was wonderful. And so they would tell me, they would say, I just need a 2-minute tutorial on how to log in for our students to log in on whatever, or I need a 2-minute tutorial on how students can do a quick catalog search or something like that. And so again, it was something, it took unfortunately COVID to happen for them to realize how easy this process was and how quickly we as the librarians could help them. And when they're 3 hours, 4 hours away, and again, as Velopin said, it could be 2 in the morning and they're watching those videos. And of course, for me, because we upload those onto our YouTube channel, anyone can watch them. And I was always monitoring the views, how many, and I would get a little down in the dumps when I would do a new video thinking, oh, this is great. And after a month, it might have 1 view. But actually, some of these videos that I did specifically for these professors during COVID have had 30, 40, 50 views each, which is unheard of for our library tutorials videos. So I just wanted to tag on to what y'all said earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I could add a note, I mean, we all talked about services that they need. It's also the resources. Like, I think more than before, like e-resources, e-books, streaming videos. We've had so many streaming videos requests because it's an easy thing for them to assign students that isn't too much, it's not overbearing, but being able to be flexible and giving them resources for them to pass along to those students that are all off campus is really valuable to our faculty, and we hear a lot about that. But I'll make that point again. It's going forward, especially when there's going to be budgetary cuts and collections is most likely going to get a hit. It's going to impact small institutions more than it will impact larger institutions and the ability to continue to be able to provide just the basic resources that students need.
We see that here too. We're shifting more and more to our faculty wanting more streaming films because they're doing, hybrid classes or all online classes, and they want that content. And then all of a sudden we're faced with increasing expenses to meet that need and a decreasing budget at the same time. So how do we shift our more traditional resources to accommodate that need, and to what point? So those are things we're also dealing with at my school as well. So, so it looks like we're kind of to the end of our time. Are there any questions or general comments, people that want to discuss what they're doing at their libraries, or we're just kind of open it up to the audience here? Or if any of the panel members have anything else they wanted to say too, that's fine. Just kind of, if there's any other points anybody wants to cover. It looks.
I just think kind of like a last closing thought for me, something that we've said multiple times on our campus since March, is that this is our first pandemic, and
Right.
it's okay if we
Let's hope
it's okay if we don't know the answer. It's okay to figure it out as we go along. We've never none of us have ever been through this before.
Mhm.
So it's,
And one thing I would like to mention here, when we contact the faculty and students through the campus email, so we decided to create one email ID, like, for reference@uncfsc.edu, just one email. Then we created like a group email. So we added all the reference staff. So if anyone sent to that email, so we all receive the email. So we can, if anyone is available, they can quickly get the answer. So that way, you don't need to individually email. It's hard to remember. So we just create a common group email for, for the students and faculty. So they can contact anytime, just one shoot an email. So that's really helpful. We always receive at least, every hour, 2-3 emails for that particular email. So we can, whoever is at the desk or whoever is virtually working, so we can communicate with them immediately. And also we added that email to the we use the World Share Management Service, OCLC. So we added that email to the discovery services. When the broken links or anything database issues, so the email automatically we receive the email from the patron. So when they click the broken link, so immediately we get the email. Then we try to contact the students or who are the patron. We try to help them to find the, whatever the PDF full text for them, and then we communicate through, in a different mode. So in that way, we can support remotely for any database questions, anything. Yeah, I just want to mention to that.
Mhm.
Okay.
And if I could just chime in also with a couple of just closing comments from Wesleyan. One thing that part of my job is I manage our media teaching resource, our media lab, media production lab. And so we have a lot of what we call emerging technologies, digital cameras, digital video equipment, everything you can imagine, 360 cameras, things like that. And what I found very interesting was not as much, obviously, during the summer, but once the fall semester started in August, that our use numbers of the lab that I manage have been through the roof with new users. And I've been blown away by that because honestly, I thought, oh, when the students come back, the media lab, unless they're communications major and have to come in and use the equipment and do editing, I honestly thought the media lab is going to be the last thing the students will want to do. I have been blown away by how many new students have come in wanting to get oriented and wanting to use our digital equipment and check this equipment out for personal use. And so I think, again, these are expensive Canon cameras, digital cameras that are, hundreds and thousands of dollars, that these students obviously, and I don't even own these, the students don't own them, but I found it interesting that most of them would share that they just wanted to do something different. They wanted to try something different. And we at the library were able to provide them with this equipment for them to just go and take photos or to try out vlogging or whatever they wanted to do that they had not done before. And that was something we could do. And the last thing I was going to end on was, I think I alluded to this maybe earlier, was when everything was really shutting down in terms of the students all leaving, we have circulating laptops, and we extended this for daily use. We extended the time limit that those could be used. But our director or interim director at that time said, we decided as a group that we just could not allow the circulating laptops to be checked out overnight or to leave for extended periods of time. And just because we just didn't know if we would ever get the laptops back if students didn't come back. And unfortunately, I did have one student, I was closing on a certain night or afternoon, and a student came up and he said, I'm leaving tomorrow to go home to West Virginia. I need a laptop. I don't have a laptop. And again, it's just my personality. It killed me. I had to say, I'm so sorry, but our policy is that we can't check the laptops out unless you're staying on campus or whatever. And he became very irate and very upset and wanted me to call my director, who had already left. And that was an instance where, again, I just had to very calmly try to diffuse the situation and say, I'm so sorry. I can't do this. And again, so I think that's important for us to know, as you all have said, that none of us have been through this before. We were winging it. And I think I feel like I'm still winging it sometimes. And that student was upset, and I felt bad, but at the end of the day, they realized that we were doing the best we could. And so what I did was, to wrap up, I told him, I said, go to your public library or contact your public library. Maybe they can do some assistance for you. Or if there's another university where you live, maybe they can help you. So again, I was trying to offer some resources that we just couldn't offer. Thank you.
And I'll just say really quickly, I think a strange positive that has come out of this is in all these complaints that we're not open enough or not giving the technology and equipment that they need. It's kind of re-emphasizing that they do need the library and they do have expectations of what we're going to provide to them on campus. And unfortunately, some of it's limited right now, but in a time where people are questioning, like, does the library really need this kind of budget, or do you really need to expand your resources? We can point to these people and be like, look, they're asking us to stay open. Some people mentioned in the chat their local history room. Our special collections is a place that has remained closed to appointment only, and they recently had to expand the number of hours that they're allowing appointments because they were just getting so many requests. So it's unfortunate that we have these people like saying, I need more hours, I need more access to these things, but at the same time, it has that strange positive effect where we're like, yes, they need us. They need our spaces and our technology and our resources and services. And so it has that weird reinforcement to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. All right, well, I think we are out of time at this point. So this has been a really lively discussion, lots of things to talk about and keep working out and find out what everybody's doing. It helps us out. So, all right, so our next session, we're gonna take a break for lunch or whatever, and then we'll come back at 1 o'clock, and it's gonna be Bridging the Digital Divide with School and Public Library Partnerships from SLMA. So see you back here at 1 o'clock.